guys. Okay, so now we're ready for, you've got your drawing, you've submitted your drawing, you've gotten your grade back on that. On February 5th, which was a Friday, you came by and you picked up this thin styrofoam plate. So it's a very thin sheet of styrofoam. And in the printmaking videos that you watched, you saw all different types of printmaking. Unfortunately, with the budget that we have, I'm unable to do linoleum, which would be my favorite to do, just because it becomes more 3D and you get to carve into it. But anyways, this styrofoam plate will achieve the same thing. You don't have to use the same type of tool, so it makes it a little bit easier to carve into and things like that. But you've gotten this, and what you're going to do is you're going to take your image, which this is my image here that you saw in the last video with the grid. I didn't need to draw the grid on mine, but some people do, and there's nothing wrong with that. So what you're going to end up doing is you're going to get your styrofoam plate, and there are, let me flip back over here, there are two different sides to this styrofoam plate. There's one side that has more of a sheen to it, and there's one side that is more dull. I like to put mine on the side that has the sheen to it, and you're going to want to tape your picture to this, and let me grab some tape real quick. Okay, so I've got my tape dispenser here, and you can kind of see where I've already taped it. I've done it to a different styrofoam board here, but you're going to want to center it up as best you can. Some of your paper is a little bit smaller. There's nothing wrong with that. So I want to center it up as best I can, and I want to make sure when I add my tape here that I do not tape onto the front of the styrofoam. And the reason why you don't want to do that is because the tape will actually tear off the top of the styrofoam, and then when you go to actually use it as a print, that kind of messed up area will end up printing on the top of your paper, and you don't want that. So what I do is you also are going to need to grab a dull color pencil. Which I forgot to do, so I had to go grab at my desk. So the reason you want a dull color pencil is because the color pencil does a couple of things. The dull part makes it so it's not super sharp, so when you're tracing over this, it doesn't puncture through your drawing, nor will it puncture through the styrofoam. So, and also on your drawing when you're doing it, it lets you know where you are. Sometimes if you're tracing in pencil, you may not know where you left off. You may get interrupted, the phone may ring, something may happen, and you may have to step away for just a bit. So you may not know where you left off. So if you have a color pencil, that's going to help you remember where you left off. And my suggestion, when you start this, start with the outside edge of the drawing. And you can see I've already traced this one onto another one because I told you that just a minute ago in your video. But you start with the outside shape of your object. I mean, with this one, you can actually go down in and do these inside lines. The parts that I'm telling you to leave off essentially are these shaded parts that I put on mine. If yours doesn't have those shaded parts, that's perfectly fine. But mine in this drawing, I thought it would make a really cool print, so I added them. So when you finish tracing all of these details, and actually what I did on mine is I just traced the outside details. I didn't actually trace over all of these because I added them in as I went. So when you trace them into the styrofoam, what it's going to do, it's going to create an indentation onto this, okay? It's going to be kind of hard to see because we're not actually puncturing through the drawing. So when you lift this up, there'll be an indentation of where your drawing is. You can kind of see it on the back of the drawing because I've done it before on another one. So let me show you with what my completed one looks like. So this is mine complete. Now when you have it and you get everything drawn on here, you're going to want to go back over it. I did it with the pen because the pen actually is able to press down deeper into the styrofoam. So, and also it helps you to be able to see where the styrofoam, where your line is. After you have done this part, it's going to be a little bit difficult to see, and go really slow when you trace back over these lines to make them ink. Just because if you go fast, sometimes you may get out of line and you may have a mark on there that you don't want, okay? I've drawn this in pencil here. It has a very slight indentation on it, so I haven't quite finished that because as I was looking at this, there was a lot of like naked space here that I didn't really want to continue to print on my drawing. So I'm probably gonna add another one that maybe crosses, or another one that goes across behind the flower or something like that. But I went in and I pressed down on all the areas from my drawing that I did, and then I came back in and I added those line details, and these should be familiar to you from when we did value. We had different types of hatching, and then we've got cross hatching in here. I've got a little bit of scumbling. So, like I said, the more you add into your drawing, the more detailed it's going to be. So, getting into your picture, if all you have is an outline shape of something, it's going to be incredibly boring. So you want to add some detail. Let me show you my sample project that I did for class, because this is the second one that I did. Okay, sorry I had to step away for just a second. Okay, so my first that I did for the sample for the in-class students is I wanted to do this leaf, which this is called a Menestra plant. It has these really cool holes in it, and I didn't choose to draw the whole picture. I only chose just one single leaf. So my first initial drawing was this. So this is the Menestra leaf. Yes, I've just drawn the outside shape and I've traced around where the holes are. But when I actually put this, let me grab my print over here, and I transferred this to my print, I did it this way on purpose, because then when I transferred this to here, now this one's been printed so you'll see some pink on it, and the black and then the blue ink that you see is where I traced around that image to press it down. Now, if you think of this like a stamp, you're going to have to, if you just draw the picture on there, like I said, you're just going to have an outlined drawing of something, which is not very interesting. The more interesting your drawing is, the higher points on the project, okay? So what I decided to do on this one was I wanted the areas here that are black to be pressed down, so that I used a black color pencil to press them down, and then I also created a border around the whole paper, and then the background behind the leaf is all pressed down. The part that you kind of see that has a little bit of pink in there is all pressed down on the styrofoam. And then when I printed it, I would get my brayer, which is a roller piece that you'll actually have to come to school to do that, but you'll get your brayer, you'll roll it on. Then when you have the ink on there, then you will put it on your paper and you'll rub to get that ink off. We got to make sure you put enough ink on there. And then when you lift it up, you will have a print. Now, as you see on this paper, all of the areas, like on my print, that were pressed down, the holes and then the background and then this vein part here in the middle and these holes, they all became the paper color, which that's perfectly fine. That's exactly the way I wanted it. All the areas that you see are pink are the areas on my styrofoam that was raised up, okay? I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but all of the areas that are raised are gonna get the ink. All the areas that are recessed will not get the ink. Now you can see on my print, I have some areas here at the top that you see where on the stamp where it kind of wasn't pressed down enough. That's okay. You don't get points off for that. I actually think it makes the print look kind of cool. So there's one example. I did the same leaf and drew it onto another styrofoam print. I also created a border on this one, but instead of doing it like the last one where I pressed the background down, I actually left the background raised, and I pressed the leaf down on this one, and I left the holes and then the vein that's in the middle of the leaf raised. So when I got this print, this is how this one came out, okay? Now, I didn't press down so good on the middle part of the leaf, so that's why you see some of that coming through, but I actually think that makes it a little bit more interesting. You can see where I put the border line around the edge, that comes through. So there are several different ways to do this. If you're confused or you need some help deciding, I can certainly do that. We can schedule a Zoom call to do that. But again, the areas that will be pressed down or recessed will not get ink. The areas that will be raised will get ink, okay? You'll get to choose the color ink that you want. You'll get to choose the color paper that you want. So you won't be just, I do have white and black paper. I also have some brown craft paper that we can print on, but you have a lot of different options as far as what you can do. So if you have any questions for me, please reach out. If you have not got your styrofoam yet, you need to get your styrofoam, because if you don't get that, you're not going to be able to finish this project and get your full points. So see you later.